Kuzusampola, I am Diki Sangmo from BBS and I will be moderating the dialogue today. This year we celebrate 30 years of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the most widely ratified human rights treaty in the history, which has helped to transform children's lives around the world. This dialogue will aim at clarifying pressing issues and doubts on the children's mind today on the issues affecting them. Without further delay, we open our floor for questions. Okay, so we have our first question.
Good morning and good example. I'm Uginkaram Chafel, grade 5. I'm 11 years old. I have one question related to plastic ban, which is not very effective in our country. How can the government ensure proper conservation of the environment?
Lasso, thank you again for the wonderful question. Please sit. As you know, Bhutan is a pioneer in terms of preserving and promoting our environment. And under the wise leadership of the Majesties and the successive monarchs, we have been able to have a very good environment that is world-renowned now. And despite that, as you mentioned, we continue to have challenges. Particularly, I would say, rather than preserving the forests, I think the biggest problem is in managing our waste, in particularly with plastics. And towards that, the government has initiated a dedicated waste flagship program with nearly 1 billion nultrams over the next 5 years. Through this, we hope that we will be able to manage our waste problems much more effectively. However, it is not only the government's responsibility. Every individual, every one of us must take responsibility for the waste. There's going to be a 3-colored bin throughout the country so that everybody will know that the green waste is for recyclable waste. There will be blue for organic waste that will be made into compost, and then there will be the red one which will go to the waste dumping sites. But maybe you also wanted to ask about the plastics. So I agree with you that although we have banned plastics in the country, we have not been able to implement it more effectively. And the reason behind this is there needs to be an alternative to the plastics. If we do not provide alternative, then people will continue to use plastics. Once these alternatives are there, then we will be able to make the ban more effective. At the end of the 12th five-year plan, after the implementation of this waste flagship program, many of the problems that exist today, we hope will be overcome.
My name is Thuptin Yezer. I'm 18 years old. Some of us live in urban area and we have a good access to TV and internet services. But many of our friends who live in rural area have poor or no access to the internet and TV services. So I assume that it's not very effective way for children's learning. So I would be grateful if Limpo would help us better understand the government's plans to address this challenge.
Last Thuptin, thank you very much. I think you have asked a very pertinent question. The biggest divide between rural and urban Bhutan. I think globally there's always this great divide between the urban and rural areas. But I think your focus is more on the access to TV and internet lines, especially because of the COVID pandemic situation and because many of online learning had to go online. And as a result, there was definitely problems faced by students in the rural areas who did not have access to TV and internet. The government has actually acutely recognized the problems and developed what is known as self-instruction materials. And we've also developed videos, and we have sent them to places where there was difficulty with TV and internet lines. But I want to reassure all of you that the government is committed in ensuring access to at least television, BBS channel will be accessible throughout Bhutan over the next 1 year. Because we have now allowed, which was earlier not allowed, the use of these dishes that can be brought for about it's about 12,000 nultram, and it will be subsidized by the government for these remote areas. In fact, we are going to give it free, especially to those about 50,000 people who live below the poverty line. As far as internet line is concerned, although the cable line for internet has reached all 205 gigaworks, there are still some places which do not have access. So you will hear very soon, when the Prime Minister of Bhutan and the Prime Minister of India are due to meet, there is going to be an agreement signed on partnership with India for satellite and for the third internet gateway. So we are going to use satellite technology to bring internet connections to those places which are beyond the reach of the cable line. So this year, not only in Bhutan, but all over the world, has been a very difficult period, especially for children and for students. In Bhutan, we have tried our best to provide online learning, but we have learned some valuable lessons, and we will change the way education is provided, including change in curriculum, change in pedagogy, and also in change in subjects that are being studied. And hopefully from this COVID pandemic, we will learn better and come out much stronger and provide the future that all of you need. Tuba Tukden, Lasola.
Las, thank you so much. I think it was one of the most relevant questions right now in this situation of the global pandemic. So we will now take on some more questions.
Thank you for the opportunity, La. My name is Sonam Shukila. I have a two-part question. The first one is regarding the health of young nuns and monks. For instance, I have encountered many young nuns and monks who share their experiences of not receiving the iron tablets on time. So how can the government support the health and nutrition of children in monastic institutions and nunneries? The second part is related to the child protection issues. So what is the government doing to ensure child safety during this pandemic and after this pandemic? Thank you.
Las Somchiki, thank you very much. Your concerns on the health status of nuns and monks, I share the same concerns. As many of you know, I am a medical doctor by profession. In fact, I am a child specialist. And I have been working in the health sector for more than 13 years. And because I work with children, I've had the privilege to work with the Ministry of Health's program. Many of you know Health and Religion Program, in fact, led by UNICEF, called Health and Religion Program Chiyebi. So the focus is actually to provide same supplements, whether you say iron tablets, deworming, vitamin A. These are supplements that have been provided to all children in schools, and similarly should have been provided to monks and nuns in the monastic institutions. If there are issues and if they are not receiving them in time, I think the government will need to review and strengthen and improve the delivery system so that all the monks and nuns get the same health interventions as given to the formal education system. I'm also aware about the living conditions of the monks and nuns, which are not at par with those that are provided in the formal school system. And it all really boils down to availability of funds. And as I mentioned in my statement earlier, there are competing priorities for the government. We have to prioritize and share the limited resources that we have in an equitable manner that will bring the best benefits from whatever we invest in. But from your question and from your concern, I will take it back and I will let the Ministry of Health know these concerns and ensure that the health delivery is much better for the monks and nuns. On your second question, I'm very happy that you raised these issues. This pandemic, as I said, is very new to all of us, and we have seen great challenges. And in particularly what you mentioned, there have been a lot of issues, especially violence against women and children, which has seen an increasing number during this pandemic period. Under NCWC, of course, as I mentioned again in the statement, there are these committees at the Dzongkhao Tromde level, all of which respond to children in need. There are these child protection units in the police. And also we hope that any child or anybody who witnesses any problems faced by children should report to these units and to the committee members so that proper action can be taken. The only thing that the government can do, along with all our partners, is to advocate and to sensitize everyone across the country on these relevant issues. As I mentioned earlier also, that it is everybody's responsibility and not left to one particular agency or to one particular individual. Over time, people have become more aware of these hotlines that are being set up. Of course, violence against women, people are more responsive because women themselves can call these hotlines, whereas children may not be able to do that. So I think we need to strengthen facilities for children to make it easier for them to reach out and to ask for assistance and help. So although the government has instituted a number of units and desks and committees, I think we must make it accessible to the children. I think what you just raised has made me realize that we need to do more to make this more accessible. So the government will certainly take note of what you have raised, both of these, one for the Ministry of Health, one is directly related to me as I am the chairperson of the National Commission for Women and Children, and we'll go back and see how we can further strengthen these measures.
My name is Gazum Kunle Gyatson. I am 11 years old. Your Excellency, is the government planning for installations for smart classroom like foreign education systems? For example, providing education on programming, coding, and digital education.
Your question is directly related to His Majesty's biggest concern, and His Majesty has directed the government to make teaching smarter, to make the classrooms smarter, to use technology more effectively. So that's why the government is now focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math. These are called STEM subjects. So the whole curriculum is being changed, and we are going to be focusing entirely on STEM. As I said in my statement earlier, we are looking to change and overhaul the whole education system. Some subjects are not relevant for the present times. It may have served its purpose in the past. The curriculum also needs to be adapted to our present and future needs. So, coding has already been implemented and it is being taught. Currently, the teachers are being trained to teach coding in the schools, and then a few schools have already started. But not only coding, as I mentioned, we have to change our entire syllabus, the subjects we teach, and the curriculum. And the focus will be on STEM and on building skills. So these are the two main areas that we are going to be looking at. By making smarter, we hope the government is also planning to introduce tablets to all the children in the schools. Also smart blackboards, and to use technology more effectively so that teachers can not only teach in a better way, but that children can learn better. Many things will go online. The way we conduct examinations, we have revised and reviewed the way we conduct examinations and gone to formative assessments. So all these things are being done, and we are preparing for the future. And under His Majesty's guidance, the Education Ministry has already started developing these. So as I said, the COVID-19 pandemic is really a bad thing, but at the same time, it has given us an opportunity to rehaul and change the way we do. Had this pandemic not come, we may not have done this. And not only we are changing it, but we are doing it in the fastest possible way. His Majesty ki suni hui na. It would have taken us years to do things, but we must take advantage of our smallness. As a small country, we can do things much faster and more efficiently. As I said, I'm very excited to be serving in my capacity in these times when we are changing and having the opportunity to bring major changes that will impact the lives of all of you. And I'm definite that is going to be a much brighter and better future. Las, thank you.
Nige mingde dawa samo nikelo de bewajin chupdin institutionila. Da ngarage samche chungku chi jowajin na chirta ngachi kelo da anim sewe gale inke ge loben chi ku institutionila. Lo chi da nige tendo chamchi member school zumbera ngachi lo chapter namsame se masude vero Semasude Verura Ngacheragi, Missena Pentomijida Maumpai Tendu, Chapter Senasunila. Tele Lorik dan computer Shapto Lapten Nami Tislushunle Tujedang Samjakadi Gasishuni in La Cartinshala.
Las Ani Dawzam, Namsame Kadichi, Chitiwaki Namidilu, Namsame Kachitu Gitiwachi in Besishunibi, Nagisumidi Denadin. The Inkegi Yuntuchi, Kalamnida, Tishechi, the Namsame Kachila, Tarinaba, Ginetang Hibdalu, Tibio the Inke Chamchi member, Tsi Matla Memo, Ani, Telen Lori, Internet, computer Tonigi, Yuntendiswell, Hamdi Namsame Kachi, Seshunibi, Tibio Lending, Jungi Katile Babachindi, Tarangachara Jung Chamchi Memaru, Debi Jungi Kaplera, the Inke Temigi Lebedisu. Terona UNICEF da ansule japsu tsu bebe te inke tumidi te tsunu se shunibi tiboda te sheda da dubde lobda karana lodi te chamasu bonime te ti chapsubdi namsame khache te ngache doni sumde chi hema tariani covid neji di thun layo mi bi kangi lasho yubdalu te ngachara tare lobrim changa cha bebe graduate lashara du Yumiba dinu, Anidisu, Nachigi, the Sheda da Lobra Nalapa, the Inket Timatangobe, Seto Calabagara Usishunibina. The Nagisundozume Mapa, Lochi, the Nigitunle member, Udimgi Tunlu, Yuntungi Tunlu, Jacob di Kache, Zora Gakabgi Mangulu Ralegobe, Mangildira Borchitobe Yobachindi, the Lakajra Berubesuni Messishunibi, the Mapa Tingachi Michese member. Tengachi Tito Tionation Seshunibi, Dangachi Catule Jungi Catule Cade, Tata, Jesus Zira Zionse. Teta Karana Chamasudra Beru, Sheda da Lobda, Animtasa de Sunalu, Ati Bom, Yusugi Sagonala Padi Dingachi, Toto Tande Dino, Anelu Henkera, Japter Beon Seshunibi. Teta Lori computer dance de Sue Temple Benigi, Ternosa Bombera U Seshunibina. Tubalani, Lasola.
Let's maybe have the next question.
Good morning. My name is Prakriti Rai. So I'm here to ask one question I've been thinking lately, and it's as reported by the media, many children are dropping out of school for many different reasons due to the pandemic. So what is the government's plan to reduce children from dropping schools?
Okay, thank you, Pratika. I'm very happy that all of you are asking very pertinent, very relevant, especially from this pandemic and what you just mentioned about children dropping from school during this pandemic. I think what you are really mentioning, I think what you're concerned is when class 9, 10, 11, 12 started, some of the students did not go back to school. And the principal and the Ministry of Education contacted each of them to ask the reasons of why they were not returning to school and tried to give whatever support was required. A few have decided that they will repeat next year. A few, because of the pandemic, they've had to support their families. So once things are better, they will return to school. One or two, of course, have married. But otherwise, there was no serious concern for their not coming to school. So we are hopeful that we will be able to convince all the parents and the children to return to school. We will do everything possible to ensure that children are not denied, that the child wants to return to school, but because of certain factors is being prevented. Those we will definitely ensure that they continue to receive the education that they require. And if there are any factors that prevent them from attending, government will do everything possible to resolve those factors.
Kuzuzampula, my name is Chimil Hamo and I am 17 years old. It is a privilege to be here today and I would like to take this opportunity to ask a question. I believe that when the government makes decisions for us children, our thoughts and our opinions should also be taken into consideration. So, how is the government planning to enhance child participation in decision making? Thank you.
All of you are really, really grilling me today. Huh? Okay, that is a really difficult question. I am aware that children's voices are often not heard, especially when it comes to major decisions, mostly at the policy level. In the past, you know that the Children's Parliament has been established. That is one forum, and I have seen the recommendations provided from the Children's Parliament. I'm not sure when the last Parliament was held, but I know of the last one that I personally attended was just before the elections in 2018. And I think the recommendations from that Parliament was submitted to the Prime Minister. And we have taken note of many of the recommendations from those. I also share your concern that children's thoughts and children's opinions on issues and policies that impact and affect the lives of children are very, very important. I am willing to hear any suggestions from your side on how we can better partner and listen to each other. From our side, we will have, I will definitely take this note also to see how we can ensure that children's voices are better heard. As I said, we need to have, there needs to be platforms, more platforms from where children's voices are heard and where children can raise their voice. I think what we are doing here today is one such forum, and we should have more of such forums. Of course, the Children's Parliament is there. Maybe we need to have from the schools, children bringing up issues and concerns. And secondly, I think whenever there are important matters that the government is deciding on, maybe we should also send it back to the various schools and also to like the scouts, etc., for their opinions. So I really like to thank you for your question. I think it enables us to rethink and see how we can engage children more.
Your Excellency, good morning. My name is Jamyang Tenzin. I am 14 years old.
We are thankful that the government is doing the best to help children's learning by introducing e-learning programs like lessons on BBS and Google Classrooms. So are there any plans to create an easy way to use virtual learning programs like apps for schools?
That is definitely the future. There has to be more of online learning. They say that in the future, there will be no universities, because whatever you want to learn, you can learn online. The revolution of the education sector. Have you all heard of something called MOOC? M-O-O-C, Shiga. Have you heard of this terminology called MOOC? It's called Massive Open Online Courses. Tuba, Massive Open Online Courses. And these courses are provided by all the elite universities in the world. Courses on anything. So people say that in the future there's going to be no universities. You don't have to go to university because you can learn everything online. Even today, in the more advanced developed countries, they have something called homeschooling. Children don't go to school. They can spend their entire schooling and be taught at home. The way we, as I said that time, the way we conduct examinations, we don't want our children to spill out and memorize whatever they learn. We want them to understand the concepts. And so therefore, we need to see how we do assessment. So definitely, the government must invest more in developing not only apps, but entire courses that can be offered online. And the Ministry of Education actually has already started to put all the teaching that are being done formally in the school, they're going to make it into small videos, and that can be uploaded. And you can watch the same. If you have not understood something, you can go back and see your teacher teach the entire class over and over again, and then have links for you to ask questions. And if any country does not invest on these technologies, we will be left behind. So the government is very serious about changing the way we impart education. So as I mentioned again, I'm repeating, all of you, your concerns are very much taken. We are very serious to ensure that all of you, have a much better future through better learning formats.
My name is Jim Chorinezar. I'm 17 years old. So my question is, I think being educated through books are not enough. I believe that we need career counseling that guide us in choosing path that suits me. I think we also need to learn about things like breaking gender stereotypes. So does the government have any plan to support such important needs?
This is, I'm very passionate and interested about the question that you just asked, that education should go beyond books that you learn. And I am a very strong advocate for that. We must understand more. This now in Bhutan, annually, we have close to 12 to 14,000 graduates graduating from university. In the past, an ordinary degree would get you a job. But today, if you have a bachelor in arts, a bachelor in commerce, one of these general art degrees and science degrees, bachelor in science, is not going to get you a job. So, what is it that we need to educate? As I said that time, one is focus on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths, so that we want our youth to become innovators, entrepreneurs. We want you to have not only the knowledge, but the skills. You need to have skills for the jobs of the future. Without skills, it is going to be very difficult. So not only to be innovators and entrepreneurs, we want our youth to become employers and not employees. We want you to be providing jobs and not for you to be looking for jobs. We need to revolutionize the concept among our young people. So that's why Ngai Shumidiani, the current education system that we have, and this I'm speaking purely from my own perspective. The education system has not changed since our first 5-year plan. 1961 ngache school good subigalera science, geography, arts, maths, Songkha, English. Basically, this education system was preparing you for the industrial age. They wanted people to be working in the factories. Bhutan never went through that industrial stage. We jumped from agrarian society into the fourth industry where we are today. Imba. So now we need our young people to study and get skills beyond books. So the focus is on STEM and on TVET, technical and vocational education, and prepare skills for those jobs that are in the future. So the government is already identifying a number of skill sets that will be required in the future. What are the skills required for Bhutan? We need, for example, His Majesty's speech na Sundemena, water. I want youth to come forward and maybe work in a sector like water. Over 50 years of development, Bhutan has got one water engineer. We have only one water engineer in the country. Can you believe that? But we have hundreds and hundreds of civil engineers and electrical engineers. Many of them don't have jobs. But water, which is so critical for our economy, for our agriculture, for the industry, and we have one water engineer. And so, coders, as I said, coders, technology apps, innovators, entrepreneurs, we want you all to become. So I fully agree with you on this. On gender stereotyping, Dimo, as you know, from the education perspective, absolutely no. In fact, the enrollment is higher for girls, at least in the lower classes. But as we go to higher schools, the ratio between girls and boys tend to differ, with more boys in the higher classes. We are definitely going to look at those to ensure that the girls will get equal opportunities. But as far as the government is concerned, we are seriously looking and investing more into STEM and technical and vocational education. And as you rightly mentioned, besides the knowledge that you pick up from the books, we will want you to build skills. And that's why vocational education will start from class 6 in all schools. Maybe not immediately, but slowly over the phases. Tuba Sonam, thank you. Very good question.
We'll be ending the dialogue here. Thank you so much for participating in this dialogue, and thank you, Your Excellency and Kaninchela.